Do you want to become a new unicorn startup in Silicon Valley and put your mark on history with your new company, new ideas, or crush the market as the market leader? If any of those two sound interesting to you, this is a game that you should definitely check. I have the pleasant opportunity to review, play, and describe to you my impressions from playing Disrupt. This is a game that I would say it right up front, it has 15 different mechanisms. And this, as a sentence out of context, it could be something that would push people away, because they would think that having too many mechanisms and it will be a game that is extremely difficult to get behind. This is the other way around, actually. This is a game that it's very easy to understand. It has very simple rules, very natural flow, everything makes sense, but it offers a tremendous dynamic push-pull environment with markets, with innovative ideas, with worker placement, with shareholding, take that elements, stock commodity and manipulation, and a lot of different things. I'm really giving a lot of enthusiasm about the game, because this is a game that I would say is unique. I have played a lot of economic games. I love economic games. I tend to enjoy a lot games with shares and stock holding, etc. This game has shares and has a lot of dynamic, I would say, push-pull effects. The game refers to 4 roles. So you play either as a startupper or a market leader, which are the two extremes. So crushing the competition. Think about, I don't know, Meeplebook, and think about, I don't know, Facebook, okay? And these two, they're trying to contradict each other. So the market leader is trying to crush the competition or buy it out, because it has already established projects which work and they're successful. And the entrepreneur, the startupper, comes with new ideas and they want to take a share of the market and gain a lot of wealth. In between those two roles, which those two actually always play in any player count, in between those two roles there are the angel investor and the BPO, which are trying to moderate. Essentially, one offers services that other people are trying to use in order to get ahead, and the more they use their services, the more they get rich or get benefit from it. And BPO, this is BPO, and the angel investor is all about trying to buy and sell the markets, the shares from the projects on the correct timing and make the most money out of it. So that being said, we have 4 roles, and they are fully asymmetric and fully different, and they give a different feeling to the game. But that doesn't make the game, again, difficult to get behind. It's extremely simple, very fast tempo, with a lot of interesting known mechanisms, but they blend so well together and they give a tremendous experience. Again, I started with breaking down everything, but keep in mind that this is a crowdfunding project. We'll come to Kickstarter. I'm going to add a link in the description of the video, so you'll find a link to follow through. The game launches on the 16th of May. I'm forecasting that this is going to be a huge success, and for its own right, because it really deserves to be a success. So stay ahead, stay tuned, and focus on the news. Try to follow the news and follow through, because I'm sure if you're watching this video, most definitely you're going to enjoy the game. You're going to have a blast playing it, the same like I had. I'm going to follow with an explanatory video, explain the rules of the game, put timestamps in the link of in the description of the video, so that you can quickly directly jump to the part of the video that you're interested for. I'm going to break down everything. The video is going to be a bit more lengthy, because I'm going to try to be very thorough, because these videos have a dual purpose. They express my review and opinion from the game, but also they act as a rulebook replacement, so you're going to get a full understanding of the video, of the gameplay. I'm going to follow through with another separate solo playthrough video, which I'm going to upload. We also have an unboxing video where we focus more on the components. This is going to be explaining all the rules here, so to show you an idea of how the game plays. And I'm going to add a bit more of my opinion at the end of the video, with my final review and impressions from my session so far from playing Disrupt. But so far, did I enjoy it, really? It's extremely... I like a lot of economic games. I like stock holding games, and this game manages to combine the best elements of market manipulation, of dynamic push-pull effects, of worker placement, of clever card play, of a lot of take that and interaction. So it's not a game where you sit in your corner and everyone plays nice. This is war, all-out war, and you're really trying to get the most wealth out of it, no matter what role you're playing. So everything is allowed in war. So let's focus, let's calm down, let's focus on how the game plays, explain everything, and come back at the end of this video for my final wrap-up and opinion of the game. Extremely interesting. You should definitely check it out. So let's join me on the table. I'll show you how the game plays in full detail. Welcome to the world of Silicon Valley, where innovation and financial prowess collide. In this board game, players take on the roles of startupper, BPO business process outsourcer, angel investigator, and market leader, each with unique skills and strategies. The goal? Very simple: to amass wealth by taking on the tech industry giants and coming out on top. As a startupper, you need to come up with innovative projects to challenge the market leaders who will stop at nothing to maintain their dominance. Angel investors will be watching closely, weighing the risks of investing to your project and others. Meanwhile, the BPO will be lurking, looking for opportunities to capitalize on the needs of everyone involved. To succeed, you will need to buy the shell shares, improve your project design, and of course, develop and market as fit. Hype your projects on social media and bluff your way through the strengths and weaknesses of your competitors. With each player's asymmetrical abilities and powers, every game will be a unique challenge, requiring quick thinking, strategic planning, and a bit of luck. So, are you ready to take on the fast-paced high stakes of the world of Silicon Valley? So let's familiarize ourselves with the player roles in this game, starting from left to right and from this color to that color. We have, first of all, the startupper with this icon and this color specifically. The startupper is an entrepreneur that is trying to create strong projects that will triumph over the market leaders of already established projects. You start with the least amount of funds, but you will, of course, make the most shares for your projects. Only you know how strong or weak your projects are truly, and through your secret parameters tokens that you assign to them. Bluffing your way into selling weak projects at a big price is your best chance for cash flow. Then we have the BPO. The business process outsourcer, or else BPO, is offering solutions that will strengthen any project for a price, of course. The BPO's main strategy usually is helping the projects that he has invested in and staying useful to everyone. The more other players use their services, the more profit they can collect. Then we have the angel investor. The angel investor tries to make the most of the market by selling and buying shares at the optimal moment. Timing is of essence here. They can offer some very enticing boosts and bonuses for every project if they get a piece of the final profit. One of the angel investors' best strategies in making other people believe that the project is stronger or weaker than it really is. Then, of course, we have the market leader with this color and icon. The market leader starts with the highest amount of funds and already established projects. All they must do is prevent everyone else's progress so they can stay on top and continue being top of the game. By placing traps on the pipeline for startuppers' projects and using take that effects, they prevent anyone else from taking the lead. Or at least that's what they try to do. If any of the startuppers' projects get strong enough, the market leader will probably want to try to buy it, exploiting the startuppers' need for cash flow. So let's familiarize ourselves with the components of the game. First of all, we have the main board that you see in front of you already laid out. We have 3 project tiles. These are the projects that they're going to be brought into gameplay in different pipelines, designed, developed, and of course trying to boost them. We have miniature prime, board tube, and another one is the Epitrapaizoume. These 3 are the, let's say, entrepreneurs' new projects. We have 30 share logos, both for the 3 upcoming new projects, but also for the 3 well-established projects, MapleBook, Cardflix, and Dicecoin. So those 6 projects are the ones that they have the shares on the market. So you can see that we have different shares, and these are depicted by tokens like this. This is for Cardflix, this is for MapleBook, and this is for Dicecoin. And there are more for BoardTube, Epitrapaizoume, and Miniature Prime. They're splitted between the players, and this is going to be changing through the course of the buy and sell activities through the share exchange. Speaking of which, we have also 6 social hype logos for the same projects. Again, you can see them here with black border compared to the white one, which is for the shares. We have 6 bull and bear tokens. These tokens have this icon on the back, and there are 6 in total, and this will manipulate the size of the market at the end, and they can be giving either a boost or decreasing the market of this specific project. We'll see that how it resolves at the end. We have 6 secret deployment, secret parameter tokens. These are owned by the entrepreneur. That's why they are assigned next to the location, and these are these 6 tokens that they're going to end up in this location here. Again, we have 4 credit cards, 1 for each of the players. Again, this is where players track their wealth in the game. You're trying to accumulate as much wealth as possible to win the game. We have this one starting at 10 credits, and here, as you can see, it's a very nice system. It's actually looking like a normal credit card, which is very fitting, I would say. And you can track both your starting income, or funds, I should say, and everything else you're accumulating through the course of the game. Keep in mind that this is how you measure your victory points. This is money / victory points / means to win the game at the end. The person who owns the company with the most share, the most wealth, they will get the most. They will win the game. We also so we have 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 for each of the 4 rows. I have divided the rows into sections ready to start the game, so I'm going to explain them later on. We also have 52 player cards. Each player comes with their own deck linked with their unique asymmetric role and their way of playing. So you can see at the back the logo of the role. You can see some of the cards. I'm going to go through the anatomy of the cards and explain them how they work later on, but just for you to see a quick idea on the cards. But they're very, very different based on the role that each and the asymmetric powers of each role. So one deck, another, second, third and fourth, 1 for each of the roles, as you can see, for a total of 52 cards. We have the resources of the game. In this game, the resources are wooden tokens. They come in different custom wooden shapes. They're very nice, actually, and this stands for different things. These are the innovation resources, one of the 3 resources in the game. Then we have the experience resources. And last but not least, we have the like resource, which indicates how the public market likes your project, etc. We also have different cubes that you see here on this. First of all, the balls are my own. They're not coming with the game. I'm using them for keeping things tidy. And again, I should mention even from the beginning that this is a prototype material. So even though it looks like a perfectly well manufactured and ready to play or buy off the shelf game, this is still a prototype, so there will be changes, additions to the campaign, etc. I'm going to add the link in the description of the video so that you can follow through with the campaign crowdfunding link. Coming back to the components, we have plastic cubes in different colors. Green stands for development cubes, red stands for market share cubes, yellow or orange stands for marketing cubes, and last but not least, blue stands for design cubes. Okay, so red are the market share cubes, green are the development cubes, blue are the design cubes, and yellow, orange are the marketing cubes. We have 8 event cards, and I assume that they would be more unlocked through the stretch goals process, so looking forward to that. So these are the starting events of the game. There are 3 meeples, custom meeples per player. These are the workers. These look different depending on the role that you have, and they are very fitting to the actual role, I may add. They look really nice. Yeah. And the last one is this one. Okay, then we have player aids. These are actually quite handy because they have the player aid for the main course of the game. So describing the phases, each round, we play 6 rounds in the game, and each round has 3 phases: the operation phase, the project phase, and the event phase. And this is all captured here as a reminder. And also there is a reminder for the final scoring at the back. Very useful, one for each of the players. Then the last thing that we see is, of course, the personal, the resources and the shares that the players start with, but this is part of the setup, so I'm going to explain them during the setup section of this video. Speaking of which, let's proceed with setup and setup instructions. The first thing we do is, of course, what you do in most of the games, and here you do the same. You place the main board in the middle of the table. So the main board goes in the middle of the table. Each player takes on a role and the corresponding set of components. I'm going to go through the components per player, but keep in mind that some they are common and some they are unique, depending on your role. Okay, so let's start with the market leader here with the purple color, black and purple. They start with a credit card and starting fund of 25 millions, as you can see here. They have their own deck of cards. They have one of each of the resources. So they start with one experience, one innovation, and one like. They get also 2 shares of each of their projects. Their projects, because they're the leader market, are their established projects: Dice, Coin, Card, Flicks, and Meeple Book. That's why you see them pre-printed. They're not tokens like the new projects that are going to be developed, designed and developed in the pipelines. These are the pipelines, by the way. So they start with 2 shares of each of the developed and established projects. So 2 shares of Meeple Book, 2 shares of Card Flicks, and 2 shares of Dice Coin. Then we go to the entrepreneur, which is the startupper essentially. Here, the startupper role. They start with a credit card and with the funds of 10 millions, as you can see on their credit card. They have 6 secret parameter tokens that you see them here. These are going to be placed, mixed and placed face down, 3 of those on these sections. More on that later. Okay, but these are assigned secretly and revealed at the end of the game, only assigned from the startupper. They're going to get 3 projectiles. Okay, so this is a projectile, a recessed projectile to hold on cubes of different standing and meaning. So for example, this is a board tube. Okay, they have 3 of those, and they're going to start to put one of those in one of the pipelines during setup. Then they also have 3 shares of each of their projects. Because they are their own projects, they have the majority of the shares. So each of those 3 projects that belong to them, they give 3 shares to them. So 3 shares from Miniature Prime, 3 shares from Eturnium, and 3 shares from BoardTube. And they have the most of the shares for the new project, as it makes sense. Then we have the BPO over here. Of course, they also start with 3 workers. Everybody starts with 3 workers, no matter the role. Okay. The BPO starts with 3 workers, 15 million as capital in their credit card, and of course their specific BPO deck, as you can see here. Also one resource of each of the types. And last but not least is the angel investor with the white. They start with 20 million on their credit card. They also have 3 meeples. They have their unique deck, 1 resource of each of the type, and they also start with 1 share of each of the project. So for a total of 6. So both the BPO and the angel investor, they have 1 of each of the shares. The difference is with the market leader, who has 2 of their own projects, and the startupper, which has 3 of their own projects. Now, next thing we do during setup is we shuffle the 3 remaining shares randomly, and we put 1 in the middle slot of the last row. So we go in the public last row, and randomly we put 1 under the 7 million, 1 under the 6 million, and 1 under the 5 million, respectively. Then we give each player 1 of the resources, as I mentioned, 1 like, 1 experience, and 1 innovation, 3 workers, and 4 cards from their deck. So each player will shuffle their deck to have a draw pile. Okay, and from this draw pile they will draw 4 cards in their hand, to start the game. Keep in mind you need to take actions to draw more cards, okay? And you should be doing that during worker placement. But each player, they're going to start with 4 cards from their deck as a personal hand, only visible to them, okay? So for the moment, I'm just placing it here for convenience. Everybody's going to do the same. Then after this is done, we shuffle the bull and bear tokens and randomly place 3 face down, 1 on each pipeline. These are these tokens, okay? These are not, they have different end game modifications, okay? So we don't know what they are. We have 6, we shuffle and we put 3, 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here. And we place a market size cube, the red one, in the middle of the market size track. So the track has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 slots. We go in the middle, which is actually 0, and we place 1 cube there as an indicator, respectively. This we do for each of the established projects. This area is the social hype area. We shuffle the social hype tokens and place them randomly on the social hype track. So the fact that these go on top is purely random, okay? They can be in any way. So we shuffle them and randomly we place them in this. The one which is on the top indicator has the most hype, and the one with the bottom indicator has the least hype, okay? And this will change through the course of the action and what players do. Then we place the players' role tokens on the brand equity track at the starting position. This is a brand equity icon and brand equity track, so they have pre-printed starting slots, okay? We place them as pre-printed. Keep in mind that each of those slots can fit 2 tokens, and each of those slots further up in the ladder, they can fit only 1 slot. More on that later. Last but not least, we shuffle the event deck and place it face down on the location indicated for the events here on the board. So this is where the events will go, and from here we'll draw events at the 3rd phase of each round. Then the start-upper places a project on a pipeline and assigns a secret parameters token to it. Each project is facing another in the pipeline, and if the first pipeline meeple book is competing miniature prime, in the second one Cardflix is facing board tube, and the third one dice coin facing a Eturnium. So essentially, again, the start-upper has 3 of those coins, projectiles, and during setup again, the start-upper is going to place 1 of their 3 projects. If they place a miniature prime, they're going to place it in the first pipeline facing meeple book. If they place board tube, they're going to place it in the second one facing Cardflix, and if they place their Eturnium as a startup during startup, they will place it on the 3rd row facing dice coin. Then we place the remaining components within reach of all players. Typically this will be for the resources and the cubes, and then we are ready to continue. Player count and roles. We can have either a 2-player game, 3-player game, or 4-player game in the main game, and there's going to be a solo version as well. For the 2-player game, in a 2-player game, 1 player will take the role of the start-upper, and the other is going to take the role of the market leader. So these 2 roles will be used in a 2-player game. It's going to be a head-on-head duel. You take all the worker placement cards, we'll see them from later on, from the decks of the Angel Investor and the BPO. And you shuffle them and you create a common deck. You set them aside essentially as a separate deck for each role. You only shuffle them for a 3-player game, so still on a 2-player game. So they're going to have their own decks, but only the worker placement cards. And at the start of every round, we reveal the top card of each deck and place it in one of the 2 worker placement locations on the main board, which are those 2 over here, in order to give more worker placement options for the players. Once this is done, at the end of each round, these 2 cards will be discarded out of the location, and this is going to be placed for the ones that are going to be revealed 2 more new cards for the next round. Keep in mind that in a 2-player game, you place 2 shares of each project next to the board, and at the event phase of each round, they will enter the market following the instructions indicated later for market flowing. In a 3-player game, we keep the same roles, the start-upper and the market leader, and then we can add as a third player, for the third player, either the BPO or the angel investor. For the third player, they can choose between any of the two. As in a 2-player game, we'll take the worker placement cards from the deck of the row that wasn't chosen out of those two. We create a deck, and each round we reveal the top card and place it in one of the worker placement card slots here to allow more options. In a 3-player game, we place one share of each project next to the board, and at the event phase of each round, they will enter the market following the same instructions we'll explain later. Finally, in a 4-player game, all 4 roles are playing, the stakes are high, all is fair in business and war. For the first round of the game, the start-upper plays first, followed by the BPO, the angel investor, and lastly by the market leader. Game overview. Each game consists of 6 rounds, and each round consists of 3 phases. Again, there is a reminder of that on your player aid, which is very convenient. First of all, we have the 3 phases for each of the rounds. The first phase is the operations phase, then we have the project phase, and then we have the event phase. And this will be repeated for every round of the game. During the operation phase, the players will allocate workers to claim numerous benefits and play cards from their decks. During the project phase, each project on a row, pipeline, will trigger all the cards on its column, workflow, and move forward one step. During the events phase, an event is revealed and will show the public's activity on the market. So let's see more on the round overview. After each player has placed their last worker, you resolve the round by performing the following steps. First, for each project, you resolve its workflow. Read more about resolving in the rulebook, and we'll show you also how this is done later on. But this is the first step. For each project, we resolve its workflow. Then each project moves one step in its pipeline. Then we reveal, as a third step, an event card and resolve its action from top to bottom. And last, we discard any worker placement cards used in this round and return all workers to their players. In terms of turns, during their turn, a player will be placing a worker on one of their available locations on the board or in one of the BPOs or angel investor cards. Again, I remind you that in the angel investor and BPO will be placing worker placement cards, and they want others to use them so they can also benefit. So they will all players will be placing, again, as I mentioned, either on the main board on these locations or on the 2 worker placement cards on their respective slots workers. Okay, so we'll be placing a worker. And when placing a worker in one of the worker placement locations, you always place the worker on the topmost slot. So if I was going to place it here, I will place it here, perform this action, move it, perform this action, move it, perform this action, move it, perform this action. But if I select another location where it's already users, let's say workers, let's say it was like that. If I place it here, I'm going to do it again on the top, perform this action, move it here, perform this action, and then miss on the 3rd and 4th slot in this example. Of course, as you can understand, if you go first on a location, you do more actions. If you go last, you do least or less of the actions, because the bottom slots are blocked. Resolving a workflow. Simultaneously resolve all cards in the workflow of a project, create the total outcome of all actions, and in order of resolution of any action, which is important, then you resolve it from top to bottom, if timing is important. And the game ends. For winning the game, at the end of the 6th round, the game ends. We will resolve the final scoring following the final scoring procedure, which I'm going to explain later on, to determine the total net worth of each player. The player with the most wealth is going to be declared the winner. Projects. Projects overview. Each project of the game represents an ambitious product that will excite the consumers and has the potential to dominate the market. Maybe it's a streaming service that will enchant the audience, or a social platform that everybody will want to connect, or even a new cryptocurrency that will sweep the market and everybody will want to invest early. Each project of the game is represented by a project tile. The market leaders' projects are printed on the main board, and the startuppers are separate components. So these are the market leaders' projects already pre-printed, and these are the tokens of the startupper, which are movable, and you can move them along the pipeline. Each game component is unique, and also to be successful, keep in mind that depending on your role, you'll have to do different things. For example, if you're the startupper, you'll need to develop and add worth to your project so that you have the most shares or gain more shares of this, and then gain more wealth. If you are the market leader, maybe you're trying to bring down all the ambitious plans of the startupper and trying to maintain the market share. In order to be successful, a project needs to have at least one design cube, one development cube, and one marketing cube on top of it at the end of the game. This is why the established projects already have one of each to show that they are successful. During the course of the game, people will try to add cubes or remove cubes from those movable project tiles as they move down the pipeline. And no matter what, when the game finishes, in order for a project to be successful, they will need to have at least one of these cubes as shown here on them. Otherwise, they will have failed, no matter what is how many shares they have. Meaning, no matter how many shares a player has for such a project, if it's not successful with at least one cube of each color, those three colors, not the red one, the ones that I mentioned, if this one, for example, finishes the game, this is not going to be successful. Players can, of course, place or remove cubes from projects with various actions, but most commonly by playing cards. Design, development, and marketing cubes represent the work that needs to be done for the project to be successful and win over the competition. Keep also in mind that all the actions in the game that remove project cube, design, development, or marketing, can never remove the last design, development, or marketing cube. The only exception is the changes that happen from the secret parameter tokens at the end of the game. These tokens that are going to be placed here. Because keep in mind that when, again, I should have done this already, when this should be face down, or out of the game, and when a player places, when the startup places a project in the pipeline and then it will start moving, he also assigns one secret token in this slot, which will be revealed once the game ends. What about the resource of the game? As mentioned, we have three resources in the game. We have like, experience, and innovation. These are the three main resources in Disrupt. Innovation, which is this one, represents the original ideas and out-of-the-box thinking required to design fresh and intriguing projects that will succeed in a competitive market. Experience, which is this one, stands for the knowledge and tricks of the trade that are needed to develop any project and overcome all the problems that may occur. Last, we have like, which represents all the mandatory marketing work to raise awareness for any project and make it appealing to the consumers. So let me move those aside and come back to this area to speak about the pipeline steps. Each row on the main board represents a pipeline. So this is one pipeline, this is the middle pipeline, and this is the bottom pipeline. Pipelines represent all the different stages a project must pass through in order to be able to join the market. The first stage is a design stage, the blue one, where all the brainstorming happens and the projects get designed from start to finish. This stage is the only one which has two steps. One step, one column, and second step, a second column. But both of those are design steps in this pipeline. The second stage is a development stage that is the green one. And this is where ideas come to life and every challenge must be faced and every problem must be solved. And the third and final step, the orange one, in a pipeline, the last fourth spot is for the third step, which is the marketing, of course. You make your project known, you make your audience interact with it, and you make it popular, because it will need to win the hearts and the wallets of the consumers. The next time a project that is on the marketing stage would move, for example, if this one would move, we'll see when this happens, then you would place it in the project area to the right of the market leader project. This project can no longer be affected by workflow cards. Means that this one, the next time that needs to move, it will go all the way to the right of the established leader market project, okay, the pre-printed one. So it moves like that, and when it reaches the marketing step, the next time that it needs to move, it jumps across to this slot here. The same goes for each of the projects on the respective pipeline accordingly. Player cards. I remind you that we have player cards, and each player has their own deck of cards with their own symbol linked with their role, okay? So the market leader can never end up having these cards, okay? They're only going to have and play their own cards. But all cards share some common features, but they are asymmetric. The decks are symmetric, linked with the role. Player cards represent all the strategic options of a company, whether long-term plans or immediate actions that would tip the scales in their favor. There are three types of cards in Disrupt. We have workflow, action, and worker placement cards. We're going to explain them all in detail. I'm going to bring them here in this area to focus and show you, but keep in mind that cards are either in your deck, on your hand, ready to play them if you have drawn them previously, and played for the round on these locations. And another thing that I want to show you before we move down to break down the three different types of cards is that you see that the different type of cards are played have different roles for them. For example, the workflow cards, they always go here, and you need to match the color for this card. So I could never play this card, which affects the first steps, the early stages, okay, the design stage. I cannot place it, play it on the marketing step. I need to play it always on a blue corresponding design step, okay, and affect the projects which are in the column. We'll see how this works. But let's move down here so I can break down the three types of cards to you. Here, all of these cards are workflow cards, by the way. First, we have the workflow cards. This is a workflow card here. When a player plays a workflow card, they pay the cost and place it on the pipelines in any slot matching the color identity of the card. At the end of every round, if there is a project on the same workflow, meaning the same column, the card will trigger its effects. Each card can only affect the project that triggers it. And we'll see how this works later on, but you can see that you can have workflow cards with different colors, so either for the design step, the development step, or the marketing step, okay? And this is an example of one of those workflow cards. They need to match the location as I mentioned. And let's see the anatomy quickly. We have first of all the title of the card. This is mentoring. This is the title. We have the cost. This is the cost for a player to play it. So if I want to play mentoring, I need to spend 2 experience tokens, resources, to spend them to give them back in the bank or the reserve. Then we have on top here the money gained for playing this card. So I will pay it, but I will gain 3 million. Also, it shows the card's owner. So you see here the icon. This is a card that belongs to the startupper, and you can see that the icon here matches the logo of the startupper. Okay, I remind you, this is the icon of the startupper on their token, and here you can see it as well. Okay, and the last thing that you have is you have the workflow actions. So these are the actions. We're going to explain later on what they do for the workflow, how they affect the project in the workflow, meaning in the column above it or below it. And then the color identity, meaning that this can only be played on a green spot, essentially on the development workflow. Another card that you see here is the worker placement cards. This is a worker placement card, and the reason for that you can identify it is, first of all, it has a worker placement spot. So these here are worker placement spots, and this is a worker placement card, and the location for these cards is always here. As you see, they're going to be placed here or here, okay? So the worker placement cards are cards that are being played typically from, as you will see, the BPO, because they are offering services, and once other players use this spot with a worker placement, okay, you will benefit from that. Again, let's see here the breakdown and the anatomy, but keep in mind that it's always placed on one of the two worker placement locations, so here or next to it on the right, you don't see it now, on the board, and then it stays there until the end of the round. It is used. Whenever a card requires payment, it's always paid to the owner of the card. So for me to, if I was the startupper, for me to use this worker placement spot, the cost for in this case would be played, described here, will be paid to the owner of the card, okay, in full. And if a worker placement card has a cost to be used, it's always paid to the owner of the card, and if the owner uses a card, he must pay it to the public, okay? So if I'm going to use it myself, I need to pay it to the public reserve. Let's see the breakdown again. We have the title of the card. This is outsourced marketing, for example. You can see that it's a worker placement card because it has, again, slot for worker placement, obvious, yeah. It has the cost to play the card. You need to pay, in this case, 2 likes. This is, again, the money you gain for playing the card. I'm going to gain 3 million if I play it. This is the effect of the described here. You pay 2 like to gain 1 marketing hype. We'll see how this works. I'm going to explain later on. Yeah. And then the next thing that is important to show is that here on the right, you can see the card's owner. In this case, it belongs to the BPO. Again, the icon of the BPO. Okay, here also. Last but not least, it has the worker placement spot, which is, he's very anxious to use it, so he's already there. So you see, this is a worker placement spot. Then, moving to the next card, next type of card is the action card. This is an example of an action card here. And here you can see that we have again a similar anatomy. When a player plays an action card, they pay the cost of the card and resolve it immediately, and then they place a card next to their deck as a discard pile, creating their personal discard pile. Action card effects can be split in 2 or more projects. For example, if you play a card that adds 2 design cubes, you can place 1 design cube in 2 projects. And the anatomy is simple. Here you have the cost to pay it. The title, first of all, aggressive acquisition. You see why it's called aggressive acquisition when you read the description. This is the cost to play it. This is the amount of money you gain when you play the card. And this is the effect of description. So steal 1 share from a player that plays after you. Ouch. Okay, I know I mentioned 3 types of cards, but actually there are 5, just to make you to cheat a bit and not to stress anybody out. But they're very simple. So let's see the remaining 2 types of cards, 5 in total. So 1, 2, 3. The 4th one is here. This is the split and choose card. This is a special kind of worker placement card, so you can consider it as a worker placement card. Yeah. But the difference is that when a player places a worker on such a card, so let's say in this case this player selected this worker placement spot, then when this is happening on such a card, they choose how to split, they choose what's actually going to happen. First of all, when a player places a worker here on the card, they will choose how to split the resources listed on the card into 2 groups, and each group is assigned to one side of the card, adding a monetary value to each group. The owner of the card chooses 1 group of the money, and then the active player chooses the remaining other group, meaning that here it will say place 4 experience tokens. Okay, so 4 experience tokens plus 2 innovation tokens. That means that for this card specifically, when I place here a worker, I will divide this into different spots. Okay, so one would be, let's say, 2 million plus 2, make it actually interesting for the owner of the card because they will choose first. So maybe I give them a 5 million and 2 experience because they're short on money, and then I'm taking 2 innovation for me, which I really want, and 2 million. So the owner of the card will decide to either take this group or that group. Okay, so if you make it unfair, keep in mind that the owner is going to choose first, so definitely they're going to get the better of them. But by carefully, I would say, seeing what the owner really wants or is lacking, then you can divide it cleverly, and then you can get what you want. Very nice card and a very clever way to use it. And the last type of cards are the auction cards. These are the auction cards. Okay, so let's focus on those and let me explain how they work. Okay, these both are auction cards. Whenever a player plays such a card, an auction card, a share follow, then we do the same steps. First, what we do is, in turn, all players bid a value of millions higher than the previous one or choose to pass. Then all players pass the last bidder. When all players pass the last bidder remaining, then this player will be the winner. So everyone needs to raise the bid. Okay, if only one bidder remains, everybody else passed, then that bidder is the winner of the auction. If the player who won the auction is the owner of the share, they keep the share and pay the million. If the player who won the auction is not the owner of the share, they take the share from the previous owner and pay them the amount of million the winner bid. Okay, so here for example, again, in order to play this card I need to pay these resources, I gain this money, and this is what happens. Exit strategy: select a share you own to auction it starting from 1 million. Okay, and then an auction starts. Or in this one, select a share another player owns and auction it starting at 1 million. So this is nasty. I really like, I can't wait for me to play this card on one of my friends. But very interesting, either forced auction or selected if you want to play it for yourself. And this creates a lot of dynamic in the game. So these are the different type of cards. Again, workflow cards, action cards, worker placement cards, and auction cards. Okay, so operations phase again. The worker placement. During the operation phase, each player places workers on the available locations, and when placing a worker on one of the worker placement locations on the board, always place a worker in the topmost slot, performing the corresponding action, and then move it on the one slot below, performing the next action, and so forth until you reach the lowest available slot. After all players have placed their last worker, the run proceeds to the project phase. In this case, if I selected this area, I will do this action, that action, and then stop. If I selected this area, I will do 1, 2, 3, 4 slots. Or if I go here, I will do only 1, 2, stopping because the next one is blocked. So this is a very clever way of indicating that, for example, if you go first, you take the most of a worker placement spot, which actually is really nice and really fitting because you're the first to go there, so you can exploit it more. But maybe you're really in the need for what some of those action slots are doing, so you need to go there, but then you don't gain the extra ones at the bottom because they're blocked. In other words, if this player were to place in this column here, they will only do the top one, so only this action, and none of the rest 3 following. Buying, selling a share. When buying a share from the market, spend the amount of million based on which column that share is, and the owner of the share gets the same amount of money. So if I was going to buy this one, I was going to pay 6 million, and I was going to pay it to the angel investor. When putting a share up for sale, you select the price you want to sell that share at the place and then put it on the appropriate column. So let's say I have one share, dice coin, and I want to sell it. Let's say I'm again the start-upper, and I decide that I want to pay it to place it for 8 millions. Okay, so this is what I want for this share for people to buy it. So it stays there. Keep in mind that when putting a share up for sale, then you can, of course, if you already have some shares up for sale when you take this action, you may rearrange all of any of them, and you only get experience resources for each additional share you put up for sale. Keep in mind that each role can have only one share to sell in each column. So that means that I cannot have in the same column more than one shares to sell. For example, if I wanted to share another to sell another share for 8 million, for me there is no slot because I have already placed as a start-upper dice coin share. Okay, but I can rearrange it and maybe put it this one here, and let's say I have another one, and then I'm putting my other share here for 8 million or whatever. It's up to me. But this is how this works. Okay, and it's important to understand that this is a demand and offer push-pull system, very dynamic. Okay, and again, each row is for one of the players. So this is a row for the start-upper, the row for the BPO, the row for the angel investor, and the row for the market leader. The bottom is the row for the public. A good opportunity to talk about locations. We have different locations here pre-printed on the board, but I remind you that you can also have worker placement cards placed on the right of those locations. Okay, so let's see some of the icons so that we can explain them. So from top to bottom, this is a gain a like resource, very simple. This is a play card. This is discard any number of cards to progress that many steps on the brand equity, which is on the left, explaining it later. This stands for leverage, gain the bonus next to your position on brand equity or any other bonus below it, again linked with the track on the left, equity. I'm going to explain it later on. This stands for put any number of shares on the market and gain an equal amount of experience tokens. I put 3 shares, I gain 3 experience tokens. Okay. This one, play a card, draw a card from your deck. If it runs out, you shuffle it, and then you create a new deck to draw from. This one stands for move a project up to up 3 slots on the social hype. The social hype is on the right. I'm going to explain it later on. This stands for becoming the first player in the next round. This stands for put any number of shares on the market and gain the same amount of innovation resources. Okay, so you put them up for sale. Again, this stands for draw a card. Move a project down 2 slots on the social hype. This stands for info, look in the next event card, and also one of the bull and bear tokens. These are the bull and bear tokens here. Okay. I simply gain 1 million. Again, with this one, you play a card. Discard any number of cards to draw the same amount of cards from your deck, and this increase or decrease the market size of a pipeline by 1 step. Okay, in order to conclude with the operations phase, let's have a bit more insight on some of the locations. Here is the brand equity track with this icon that I mentioned before. Okay, you can see, we explained here how you modify your position here. You start at the bottom on the pre-printed slots, as you see here. Okay. And all players start at the pre-printed slots on the brand equity track at the beginning of the game. Each time you discard cards to progress on brand equity, then you move your player role token as many steps as the number of cards you discarded. The first 5 steps of the track can be shared by 2 player role tokens, and the last 4 can hold only 1, as you can see further up. When 2 players' tokens are on the same position on brand equity, the one that is on the left is considered to be on higher than the one on the right. So, for example, in this case, the market share, let's say here, is on the left, so they're higher than the angel investor. Okay, but both of them are higher than the start-upper. Okay, and if that was the case, the BPO is higher than all of them. So keep that in mind, and keep in mind that you cannot place your token on top of another. You can only move it on an empty space. So if someone reaches the top of the track, that position is locked and cannot be claimed from any other player. When using leverage, you can claim the bonus next to your position on the track, or you can choose any other one below your position. Okay, so this is nice because when you do that, you gain from the leverage. If I'm the BPO, I can either gain this bonus or any bonus below it. But if I am the start-upper, I can only gain 1 like or 1 bump on the hype track. Also, the first 4 positions of the track offer endgame bonuses. You gain money, millions, depending on where you are on the brand equity track and how many resources you have. So if you finish up here, you see that for every 2 resources left over, you gain 1 million. If you finish here, for every 3 resources. If you finish here, for every 4 resources. And if you finish here, for every 5 resources. So a lot to be gained moving up on the equity track. This is the icon and the area for the social hype track. The social hype track is an indicator of how much the public likes or dislikes each project. It is much easier to sell shares on a project with high amount of social hype, so that they fetch a higher price, and buying shares on a project when the cost is low and then increasing its social hype is an excellent strategy to build your wealth. And when you have to move a project social hype logo, remove it from the row, slide all the remaining social hype logos until the new position is available, and then return the new one to the new position. So for example, if this one drops 2 spots, I need to move it to the side, 1, and they will draw and become here. They will be inserted back below. So this is how this works. And the last thing that we need to check is the market size track. This is the market size track, and each pipeline has one of those tracks next to it. The market size track shows how interested the general market is in this type of product. If people are all about the streaming services, they can't live without them, then the shares of that kind of project will have higher value and thus will be more desirable. Each pipeline row has one such track showing what piece of the market pie these projects can claim. The higher the cube on the track, the more valuable the shares of these projects will be at the end of the game. And keep in mind that the bull and bear tokens will probably bring sudden changes at the end of the game. So depending on the position of this cube, which can go, this is 0, +1, +2, or -1, -2. Okay, so it can fluctuate between this location. This will affect at the end, together with the bull and bear, which will explain how it works. This, for example, this one wouldn't move it at all, but if it was this one revealed, it would drop it 1 spot. Okay, and depending on the final location on this track, different things happen at the end of the final scoring, which we'll explain later. The project phase, which is the second phase of the game. During the project phase, each workflow activates. All projects move within the pipeline and new projects are placed on the pipeline. After these steps we conclude, we move to the event phase. Resolving the workflow. We follow the same steps when we resolve the workflow, and these are the following. For each card in the workflow, from top to bottom, the owner of the card decides if he wants to trigger the event. There would be certain instances where triggering their card would benefit another player more exclusively. Some cards penalize, of course, the other players instead of benefiting you. Before deciding to trigger each of your cards, you may consult with other players and offer them any kind of deal. Any player may choose to give a share or a number of millions money to convince you to trigger or not trigger one of your cards. Once the deal is made and both parties agree, the deal cannot be broken. To make such deals, players may not exchange innovation, experience, or like resources, nor can they trade cards. You add the total outcome of the actions of the card and resolve it simultaneously. For example, if there is a card that removes a design cube and another one that adds 2 design cubes, the project would only have 1 design cube at the end. So here you see that, for example, this card, when it will be activated, of course this is played as a countermeasure from the market leader. It will prevent a player to add a designer cube, and maybe they play it because they've seen that they will actually make a play, they will force to remove a designer cube. Okay, so meaning that this will be removed. Again, I remind you that for a project to be successful, they will need to have 1 designer cube, 1 project cube, one design cube, 1 development cube, and 1 marketing cube, like you see on the established projects. Otherwise, they fail. So let's quickly see the icons. They're all referred at the end of the rulebook, but just for you to see them quickly, this icon stands for placing a design cube. This icon stands for placing a development cube. This icon stands for placing a marketing cube. This one stands for removing a designing cube, removing a development cube, removing a marketing cube, respectively. This stands for each player gains 1 or 2 million for each share they own of the triggering project. This one, each player loses 1 million for each share they own of the triggering project. This one, the owner of the card may spend up to 3 innovation experience like to place the same number of design, development, or marketing cubes on the triggering card. For this icon, you increase or decrease the market size of the pipeline row by 1 step. And the last one, move a project up one step on the social hype, as you have seen also from the worker placement icons. These icons will affect the project. So of course they will affect different things, and you need to be mindful, because this will have a very dynamic push and pull effect on the shares, the economy, your wealth, and your possibilities to win the game at the end, your chances to win the game. Again, this is a workflow and this is a pipeline. So when we start to assess it, we can see that, for example, we want to go here, and then we need to assess all the cards on the workflow, because they will add up together. So if, for example, this removes one cube, for example, one design cube, and we have another card that adds 3 design cubes, then a total of 2, they will count it together, and a total of 3 minus 1, 2 design cubes will be added as a conclusion. So all the events are of the actions are counted, and the final result is applied. But keep in mind that each player will first decide, will I play this card or not, and then you can offer a deal for them to either play it or not play it, if it's something you want or not. Moving a project. Starting from the project that is furthest along the pipeline, move each project one step to the right. Move any project at the end of the pipeline across the project area. So in this case, this one would move, as I said, across, because it's at the end of the pipeline. So we start with this one, then we go with this one, which will move here, and that one will move here, for example. Okay. Place a new project. If fewer than 3 projects are placed in the pipeline, the start-upper chooses one to place at the first step. When placing a new project, the start-upper always assigns a secret parameter token to it. So when, for example, this, let's say this was not here, and this is introduced here, yeah, then the start-upper will also assign one of those tokens face down on the respective pipeline. Secret parameter tokens will affect the number of design, development, or marketing cubes a project is going to have at the end of the game. A word about those secret parameter tokens. As you can see, each secret parameter token indicates the hidden strengths and weaknesses of the project. Each startup project will have one additional cube of one kind and one less of another kind. This means that at most cases only the startup knows can know for sure which project will dominate the other, or even if a project will fail, which is a great indication of how the final scoring will end up. Okay, so this is really important information. Yeah. Once, of course, all these projects are in play, they should in different steps of the pipeline, they should all have a secret parameter token assigned to them. Okay. Third phase of the game is the events phase, where we have the event. During the event phase, an event card is revealed and players resolve it from top to bottom. Anytime an event says a public intends to buy a share at a specific price and there are 2 shares at the same price, the public will buy the share of the project that is higher on the social hype, so on top of this track rather than on bottom. Also, if 2 players have a share of the same project at the same price, the public will always buy the share from the player who is higher on the brand equity track, meaning the track here on the left. Whenever a share is bought from the public, it is immediately put for sale in the bottom row, public row, which is this one. And just to show you, it has the public icon here, yeah, in the bottom row. For the highest price of 8 million, so it will go here. If there already a share there, then it will slide it to bump it to the 7th position, and then it will take its place. And of course, this will may have a chain reaction, and then it can bump other shares as well. You slide as many shares as needed so that all new shares can be placed in the public row of the market. After resolving an event card, if there are empty slots at the last row of the market, return shares outside of the game to the market, starting with the ones higher on the social hype track until the last row of the market is full. Always you return the shares in the leftmost space, sliding shares to the right if needed. And after the event has been resolved, it stays on the top of the deck and the special ability remains active until replaced. Again, the anatomy of the event is simple. You have the title on the top, disruptive technology. You have the special ability, which is described here. In turn order, or players add a market cube to a project. And here you have, for example, cases for special buy or public buy. Buy all shares from the projects tied for the most design cubes. Okay? Or you can have a case, for example, where you have, here, also public buy, which is described here. This is a public buy. So buy all shares, buy one share, or buy one share for 6, 4, 5, and 6. This is a public share. This is a special buy, and this is the special ability of the event. It stays on top always. So, to sum up, 6 rounds in the game, and each round has 3 phases. Operation phase, where you start with the player holding the starting player icon, bidded for, placed from worker placement. Players take turns placing a worker until all 3 workers are placed. End of the phase, you collect all workers back. Project phase, for each project on the board, activate all icons in its workflow, move the project into its pipeline, and place a new project in a free pipeline if able. Last, we have the event phase, where you reveal the top event card, resolve the event parameters, and then the public buy shares. Once this is done, for 6 rounds, then we'll proceed to final scoring. When the last round of the game resolves, the end game is triggered and final scores are determined. For each pipeline, we'll follow the specific steps for the final scoring. First, we reveal the secret parameter tokens and adjust the cubes accordingly. We'll explain this with an example later on. Then for each color, you compare the number of cubes each project has and assign market share cubes following some simple rules. Let me show you up close. For each color, as we said, we compare the number of cubes and each project has and assign market share cubes with the following procedure. The project with the most cubes of a color takes 2 market share cubes, the red ones. The project with the least cubes of a color takes a market share cube. When the projects tie, they place 1 market share cube on each. The total number of market share cubes on both projects should be 10. You assign market share cubes to the project with the most total project cubes until there are 10 market share cubes total in both. If the 2 projects tie, give an additional market share cubes to the rightmost project. Then you reveal the bull and bear tokens and modify the market size track accordingly. So you will reveal this one then, and then you will modify the market size accordingly. And then you add or subtract market share cubes depending on the final position of the market share track, which could be here. For this pot here on top means that for every 3 market share cubes the project has, you add 1 market share cube to the project. Here on the second slot means that for every 4 market share cubes the project has, you add 1 market share cube to the project. Here, nothing happens. Here, for every 4 shares cubes the project has, you subtract 1 market share cube from the project. And here, for every 3 market share cubes the project has, you subtract 1 market share cube from the project. Below can be seen more clearly in an example. So let's say here we have Meeplebook and Miniature Prime. Meeplebook will take 2 red cubes because it has more design blue cubes than Miniature Prime. Then Miniature Prime will take only 1. The 2 projects tie for the development green cubes, so they will take 1 red cube each. The Miniature has more marketing orange cubes, so they will take 2 red cubes and Meeplebook only 1. The total so far for Meeplebook is 2 plus 1 plus 1 equals 4, and for Miniature Prime is 1 plus 1 plus 2 equals 4. Combined they have 8 cubes, so 2 extra red cubes need to be placed, and these will be placed to the project with the most project cubes, in this case Meeplebook on left, with 8 project cubes. So the scoring becomes Meeplebook 6 red cubes and Miniature 4 cubes respectively. So it would be 6 in total for MeepleBook and 4 for Miniature Prime. The fifth step is the bull and bear token. The market size tracker indicates that for every being placed, let's say it's here, it will indicate that for every 4 red cubes in a project you remove 1 cube. Thus MeepleBook will end up with 5 cubes instead of 6, so 6 minus 1. And Miniature Prime will end with 3 ones, 4 minus 1 equal 3. So the final score would be MeepleBook will worth 5 million, every share on MeepleBook will worth 5 million, and every share of Miniature Prime will worth at the end of the game 3 million. Players will add their money from their shares to gain a total sum for their net worth, and the player with the highest worth of net value will be the winner of the game. So there you have it. This is everything you need to know about Disrupt. A very easy game, but with a lot of dynamic, a lot of nice economic and share manipulation and push and pull effects. So let's go all the way up to discuss about the final conclusion and my impression so far from the game. Wow. Really wow. Triple wow. Triple wow, why? Because this company is a new company, it's called Triple Maple. Nice fancy name, by the way. But I would say they managed to get a triple wow for me. Because this game really delivers fantastic experience. You don't have to be heavily involved in economic games or stock holding games to enjoy this game. This is I would say the striking success of this game is that it's a very simple game to understand, fairly simple, okay, very easy rules, but the way that everything is affected from each other, the different roles, the market, the stock holding, the price of the shares and how these shares can be affected by the course of the action, the card play which manipulates, the take that effect, the deals you can do, the negotiation if you want to go down this road, clearly reading the market and the timing, which is of essence when you try to buy and sell shares, which is important. So this game really offers, I would say, a lot of clever ideas, extremely well done in placing them together on a fantastic framework, and delivers a high intense, highly involving, super fun experience on the scene, on the genre, where you are just either a market leader or an entrepreneur, a startupper, and you're trying to get your projects out. You invent something on Silicon Valley and you try to make it the new big thing. And either it's going to go fantastic well or it's going to be crushed, not because it wasn't good enough. It could be that it's not good enough and you need to make it successful, but it could be because the competition crushes you for its own benefit, of course. So fantastic gaming experience, high play interaction, a lot of cool ideas, different things to try, highly asymmetric, triple wow, really. This is a triple wow game and really deserves all the success. I highly recommend that you check out the details, that you check how the game plays, follow through on our next video, which we're going to make also a solo playthrough, so that to show you how the game plays on solo, but this game is also phenomenal at multiplayer as well. It gives an extremely well-balanced and unique experience with high player interaction, with a lot of high stakes, with a lot of interest, with a lot of roller coasters, highs and downs, and you're trying to get the best place on this ride and try to be on top of it at the end of the ride. But in any case, no matter if you lose or win, it delivers a fantastic gaming experience and I highly recommend it for that. So you should definitely check it out. Make sure you visit the link in the description of the video for the Kickstarter crowdfunding campaign. If you're doing it soon, that means that it's starting about now on the 16th of May. If you haven't done it and you're watching this video a bit later, make sure to check out the campaign, because this is, I'm saying right up front, a successful game which is going to shake a lot of tables, mine included, and a lot of people will going to love it because of its fantastic gaming experience that offers, with high stakes, a lot of player interaction, a really nail-biting experience all the way to the end, and a fantastic finish for final scoring. So many thanks for watching. This is Disrupt.